In data, the most dangerous number is 0. Not because it represents nothing, because it's the cost of doing nothing. When we call safety E, in reality it can be systemic decay. In today's video, I want to talk about why your brain is programmed to let you lose. As a matter of fact, your brain is fighting an silent war. This is cost bias versus opportunity cost awareness. One side creates safety and predictability, conserves neural energy. Other side, hunger for growth, optimization. We are causing toxic war between loss aversion and regress aversion. In thinking fast and slow, Daniel Kahneman demonstrate that. The pain of losing is twice as powerful as the joy thought gaining. Scientifically, for your brain, green light the risky moves. The potential reward must be 1.5 to 2.5 times greater than the potential penalty. Slowly then does the brain signal. Oh, the wager is the worst at the entry. Hi everyone, I'm Cleona and I'm back. In finance, the most basic formula is revenue subtract expense equal profit. But the real problem lies in the word expense. Usually, we only see explicit cost, the visual board number, stay on balance sheet. But when we apply this to our personal life, we encounter implicit cost and psychological cost. Some cost is a rusted anchor holding your ship in the middle of storm. You're so worried about losing the chain, so you don't dare to cut it to sail towards safety. When the opportunity car stops staying still versus moving forward seem equal, some cars it worth pins us down. We read the effort and time already spent, so we continue pouring resources into the sunk hole, even when the future return no longer justify the investment. Why so hard to let go? According to Sportback story, our brain categorize giving up the old at a certain loss, while a new part is merely a potential gain. With the endowment effect, we overvalue what we already own, simply because it's ours. The comfort zone feels like autopilot, while making a new decision require prefrontal cortex to perform the cognitive equivalent of a high-intensity workout. Your brain is naturally fragile with energy. So it's whisper. Don't change. Just let it be. Let's run a psychological financial experiment. Imagine you have 500 million Vietnam in saving after years of hard work. Option 1, please keep this in saving account at 6% interest. Everything is on autopilot, no new learning, no trust, just live silently, and the balance grow predictably. This is very seductive reader. Wasn't you the enter the index fund market, projecting a 10% compound annual rate? But this isn't a straight line. It's high volatility environment. Especially look at the bribe. You should pay before profit arrive. You spend 20 hours of your weekend dissect prospectus. You struggle for 3 days with EKYC, the brokerage setup. The task this feel incredibly daunting as an ununiformed professional. You stay up until 2 a.m. researching net asset value, market volatility, and crowd psychology. More importantly, we and you conquer the fear of being scammed and the terror of losing money to play the first order. Now, the question isn't just 6% or 10%. Suppose after 3 months, the market shake and your fund drop 2%. If you quit until you go back to saving, it isn't just losing a few million in cash. What you're really wanting, the sunk anchor in your mind. And the 20 hours of research, the effort of overcoming fear, and the hope you painstakingly build. You tell yourself, I put so much work into understanding this, I can't give up. This moment Some course became double-edged sword. It can be the discipline. It help you reach the harvest. Or the chain. It keep you holding plummet's portfolio. If you breathe the effort spent. Before dive into this number, let's track why behind the variable in this model. In data, your output is always as good as your assumption. In this comparison, I said savings at 6% annual return is isn't the arbitrary choice. It represents a 10 years historical mean for 12-month Vietnam term deposits in Vietnam from 2015 to 2025 based on State Bank of Vietnam data. By using long-term average rather than today's specific rate, we create fair weather baseline for safest possible part. On the other side, we cap the index fund expectation at a conservative 10% compound annual growth rate, while equity markets can deliver higher strike. 10% searched air realistic risk-adjusted benchmark for diversified portfolio like VN30 index over a decade. We aren't looking for the best case scenario. We are looking for the risk premium, that 4% gap. The goal is to see if that extra 4% is enough to justify the volatility and the sunk cost of effort we talked about earlier. When using open source VN stock to build a decade of data market. But a quick disclaimer, the analysis is simplified comparison between fixed return saving instrument and market-based investment using historical data. It assumes constant interest rate, no tax or transaction cost, and fully disciplined investor who hold through the market volatility. These results so represent one possible historical outcome and do not capture the full range of future possible scenario for risk. Data modeling is about reducing ambiguity, not eliminating risk. I'm sure these assumptions do not build responsibility. See the border of this number. Look at the data. The hundreds million Vietnam gaps on the chart look incredible, right? But I'm working in data realm. I must be honest, data never lie, but it rarely tells the whole story. If I strip away filter assumption, here's the intuition fee you actually face. Silently. In the model, we calculate net return. In reality, every dividend and every exit costs you. This is not the small number. Inflation adjusted. The 6% interest rate with 4% inflation means you're only living on 2%. If you don't calculate the real return, you are being exceeded by the nominal number. Psychological tax. This is the heaviest cost. The sleepless night when VN30 index evaporate by 20%, the loss of confidence when your wealth vanished on foreign screen. Here's what you gain. The assets not on the dashboard. Risk management savvy. You are no longer a fearful newbie. You understand drawdown and rebalancing. Systematized thinking. You learn to make a decision beyond data, not headline. You use data tool to pierce into your own pocket instead of following rumor. In this situation, I will lie. Some course can be a positive anchor. If you only had a saving account, you would have no sunk cost investment in learning, making it easy to withdraw for mindless spending. But because you sunk the hundreds of hours learning and surviving market strategies, you feel regret toward wasting that effort. And the sunk cost of effort is exactly what keeps you in the market long enough to reap the reward in the 8 year or in the 10 year. When you invest in that store into the right thing, the sunk cost transforms into discipline. I won't inherit a project with 3,000 lines of SQL query. My colleagues have poured a heart into this. But when the stakeholder requests an update, the logic was so deeply rooted that it took the team forever to understand it, let alone fix it. Deleting those 3,000 lines felt like a betrayal of her hard work. And that regret is the powerful of sunk cost. And finally, we choose to scrap it and replace with 100 lines of optimized course. It's a massive upfront time investment to refactor, but the result don't lie. Our processing dropped from 6 hours to 2 hours. By letting it go the effort of the part, we brought ourselves the future of efficiency. Don't let what you lost in the past dictate what you can achieve in the future. Sunk cost exactly that, sunk. Don't let it enter your equation for tomorrow. Is there any habit, investment, or project you are clinging to just because you regret the time already spent? Leave the story in the comments below. I'd love to discuss it with you. I'm Cleona, and see you in the next video. Wish you best. Bye!